So we saw a tweet go, I guess what you'd call bear market viral, like 30,000 impressions yesterday. It was from a gentleman, Slum Doge Millionaire, if you've heard of him before. And yeah, Clemente's got it pulled up. He said, if your biggest bag of crypto is Bitcoin and you've bought it all within the last year or two, and then this is an interesting take, you're a boomer. That's what you are. Only time I agree with anyone having a big bag of Bitcoin is if they stacked it up prior to 2021. Unless you made millions last bull run on an altcoin and parked it in Bitcoin, that's the caveat he provides. Then he said, mathematically speaking, it won't be anywhere near the biggest gainer on the next bull run. You have better chances of having 90% of your net worth in Ethereum rather than in Bitcoin. Well, I mean, look, on the Bitcoin show today, I'm going to be talking to Robert Breedlove. I think he'll have a lot of stuff, a lot of thoughts on this. But I'd be curious, I know Nick is a big ETH person. At the same time, sometimes I wonder, how big of an ETH person Nick is. I'd love to get your perspective on this, on, I guess, going into a post Bitcoin having 2024, 2025 assumed crypto cycle. Do you agree with Slum Doge Millionaire? Is that something that you agree with?
He's completely right. Anybody that's just holding Bitcoin is just a dumb idiot. And I have no idea. Ultimately, diversify your investments. Us talking about crypto all the time obviously results in a heavy bias towards buying more crypto, the lower that it goes. But I mean, you do have to, there are definitely moments where I wonder. I saw some, there was one of the founders or developers on Solana was debating with the bankless guys who were I saw on my Twitter feed this morning, and obviously the bankless team is is
super
big,
ETH
like
bull.
they're ETH maxis, I guess. And the thing that I don't know, I just think that whole position, reading some of the ETH stuff, there's like a conversation around layer 3, and I'm just like, what the fuck are we talking about? The other thing is, I actually think it's also one of the fundamental flaws with most of blockchain technology, whatever you want to call it. Dude, we still can't easily build things on this stuff. And that to me, it actually means that it's like inherently flawed in many degree, on many fronts, which is why I also think that a lot of this is just another price speculation position, which is very characteristic of this space. And B, I still think most of this technology sucks. It's just not easy to develop with. And so I need to go learn Rust in order to figure out how to code on Solana, which is just not it's just not easy. Learning how to build smart contracts, as fun and exciting as it is, like Solidity, it is not super hard to learn, but it is hard to make a bug-free contract. And that's something that's just it's not easy to operate as a developer. So all these price speculation things, I just can't even it doesn't make sense, because where most of the upside usually is not on any of the underlying technology, unless you're an infrastructure company like SendGrid, for example, which enables developers to integrate email solutions. So what's the popular email provider right now that a lot of people use? I'm blanking on it. No. Okay. You had suggested using a Beehive. So so they're built on top of SendGrid, for example. We're built on top of AWS SES, which is their solution for us sending emails. These SDKs are simple to use, and also they're reliable infrastructure that I can just depend on. Whereas a lot of the other solutions, if you make a comparable thing on the Bitcoin or ETH side or Solana side or any of these other things, like, well, I guess the biggest thing that I would say is like the money is going to Beehive, and those are the places that you want to invest in. And generally they have the most upside. But in the crypto space, it's the opposite. We're all saying like, yo, is it AWS SES or is it SendGrid that's like the best email deliverability solution? And that's not what the average consumer is talking about. They're saying, hey, how do I send email? In other words, they don't give a shit what the underlying technology is. Yet everyone in the crypto space, like my trainer is like, yeah, I pay attention to crypto, and he brings up some blockchain that I'm not even familiar with. That I'm like, what the hell is this thing? Like, what is this token? What's the value of it? So I don't know. That's my biggest takeaway. Is like the whole conversation in this space is about what the price action of various crypto assets are, when really fundamentally the real question is what the hell is being built and who's building anything in this space. And frankly, I think there's maybe 10 companies that exist that's building anything. So like that's the bigger problem. Like when are app developers going to flood the crypto space is the question that I have, and I'd like to see that happen.
Yeah, so I mean, look, there's a lot.
When is the halvening cycle? Because that to me is a bunch of bullshit. Like it's meaningless. Someone did a chart the other day that was like, yo, there's 30 more halvening cycles or whatever left, and like the block reward next to each one is like 0.00001, and it's like, imagine what the price is going to be at that moment, and it's like, no, well, actually, that's not the reality. Is the people who are going and mining at that point are going to have far less incentives. And now you need the price to be $400 quadrillion in order to justify doing mining activities at that point. So I'm just like, well, I don't know. This like doesn't even make any sense. So anyways, a lot of the stuff that exists in this space is bullshit, frankly. And like until I'm playing games, which we're now seeing, or I'm like using some sort of app that like has some sort of like value to it, I'm not interested.
Yeah. Nick, what was the tipping point?
Ahead,
so Peter, I was going to, Nick, you often reference your Facebook days. What was the tipping point with Facebook that made developers come to the platform?
They launched a platform. That was it. Well, they had millions of users and they opened a platform, and instantaneously developers were flooding and making millions of dollars because they're making significant capital because suddenly apps were going viral overnight, and so everyone, you can make any app and immediately have tens of thousands of people using it, or hundreds of thousands of people, and for many applications, millions of people. And venture capitalists were coming and saying, look, we'll give you money to keep developing, like keep building, basically, because we've never seen this many applications have this many people on it. So the tipping point was instant. Like it was basically they launched and every app was seeing wild success out the gate. And the same thing exists for like when you think of Microsoft developers for like Windows and things like this, or Apple developers that were the App Store was groundbreaking because app developers were able to go get distribution to millions of people that had iPhones. And so immediately a bunch of people were doing it. Blockchain doesn't give you any distribution. In fact, right now, it actually prevents distribution because it's so freaking difficult for anybody to onboard. I don't know what your experience, Pio, was setting up FriendTech. If you were like, hey, this was easy.
I think it was easy for me because I didn't put any money in. That made it was very easy.
You had to transfer money on Base.
I did not have to put any money in or link any wallet. And now I have almost an Ethereum in the wallet. I don't know how to get that out. And
there's a little button that says withdraw, and then you put in your main hot wallet. That's about the extent of it. It's actually pretty straightforward. And once you withdraw it, it just adds the base chain. I'll say their off ramp is pretty smooth. And now that there's bridges for base, you can get those funds in less than 5 minutes. I've been pleasantly surprised with it.
I saw yesterday, real quick, that I didn't know this, but FriendTech apparently only has 3 people on the entire team. Yep. And it was like someone was tweeting about basically it takes 3 years for someone, like if someone reaches 10 million in revenue in 3 years, that's like an impressive thing to do. And FriendTech did it in 39 days with only 3 employees, which I was like, holy shit, like that's actually really impressive.
Not surprising, and I want to hear from Nick on this. Nick's certainly the person that we should throw to on this. To me, not as experienced as Nick, not even in the same stratosphere as experienced as Nick when it comes to all things startups and app building. But to me, for an app like this, it does make sense that you would have literally 3 people on the team, because it's largely an engineering lift. And if you have really, really talented engineers, I'd imagine you can chef something like this up. It's not, you're not literally sending a rocket into space. This isn't SpaceX. It's just an addictive app that has a crypto integration and some very cool mechanics. I don't know, Nick, what do you think of that tweet and that idea that it's very impressive that 3 people built this? They're already at that revenue number. I have some thoughts on it that I'd like to share, but I'd love to hear from you on this.
Well, I mean, it's unsurprising that they're at that level. It's a progressive web app. That's the biggest thing. And all the stuff that's integrated into quote blockchain stuff does appear to be via a like custodial wallets, which is a third-party API. I forget the provider. Kix was talking with it when we wrapped the show last time. I've looked at a number of custodial wallet solutions. It's actually crazy how limited the options are. But regardless, the system that they're using, the thing that pops up that that window that shows how much is in your wallet, is all inherently built into a third-party API provider. And right now, what they have is literally like a basic text box for you to enter text. So that part's not hard. The price action is inherently based on a bonding curve, so it's static. So there's not a lot of stuff to be done there. All the images and usernames are just scraped directly from Twitter. So there's not like, this is something that you can build in a few days, theoretically, if you have clarity on what the system is that you're building. And also like the UI still is pretty garbage, and it bugs out all of the time. And I think that's indicative of maybe progressive web apps, because look, I think this is a use case in like people trying to drive adoption from that side of things. Progressive web apps is like a major item for the future, and inherently, like the EU probably will push for browsers to support this sort of technology because it avoids app stores. Yeah,
I think something I read yesterday was that Apple now basically has to be like okay with it, which opens up a lot of opportunity for crypto and NFT apps, where the Google App Store just openly now lets you put them on the App Store. So I read that yesterday and was like, oh, this is actually really interesting, because I think you're going to continue to see more of this. And FriendTech's already seen that adoption loop where now it's like added to the home screen and it becomes a PWA, progressive web app, and actually becomes like really interesting for like future use cases of crypto apps versus needing to do something fully in the App Store, because it is only available on mobile view. And you've seen workarounds on desktop where like you can convert your desktop browser to a mobile view, and that'll let you use it.
Well, it's game changing on the mobile app development side, as you just opened up exponentially the number of developers that can actually build mobile apps, because now they can build. They were already building web apps that were mobile responsive. The mobile responsiveness problem has been long solved. Like there's no issues with that for the most part. So yeah, this is the future of app development, and I think it's also great because there's just a broader number of people. When I talk with developers, I'm like, oh, have you used React Native, for example? And they're like, no, I haven't done anything with that. And it's like, well, why wouldn't you? Because like most people want to interact on mobile. Just the majority of people want to interact on mobile. And so it seems like that's an area you would understand. But all of them have built JavaScript front ends for websites. Not all of them enjoy that, but all of them have built it. Signal, sound like you wanted to say something?
No, I was going to say, actually, a lot of people are like mad at the UI on FriendTech, but actually it reminds me a lot of the apps that come out of hackathons. Like when you've done these 3-day super intense competitions, and then you get to the end, the whole UI, the way like it loads as that progressive app, that's what you would get at a hackathon competition. And normally the apps that have sort of go down that path tend to be quite good. And even though the UI is janky on the messaging, it just makes me, and the fact that you've also just told me that it's a 3-person team. What I like about that is, these are hardcore devs just iterating really, really quickly. When people are like, we need to have a watch list, that's the thing that gets moved to the top first. And this is like, if this is able to keep people's attention, I really think this is an app which will develop very quickly and could probably get funding behind it. But these are also the kind of apps as well that I think if they bring in enough money, they don't necessarily need to go get funding, and they can just keep hiring engineers. So for me, like this whole UI experience that we're having just goes to show you just like how raw the idea is, and probably how quickly they came up with it, and how quickly they just wanted to launch it and get it to market. So I actually see it as a positive rather than a negative, that the UI is still a bit janky, but it's definitely going to improve. It's easy to see.
Well, they don't need funding. So that's like they made $7 million in the first month, which is insane for any social app, because think about Clubhouse. Clubhouse was not like printing cash when they were scaling. Instead, all they were looking at is what is daily active and monthly active users. And that's the metric for most social apps right out the gate.
And because in that particular example, A16Z wanted to own a social media platform. So I believe there were offers to purchase Clubhouse, and they said no because they wanted to have a piece of the social media pie.
Well, more importantly, they just gave significant funding. A16Z's approach to funding everything is always write massive checks, take a decent chunk, but overinflate the companies that they invest in. Like Proof is a recipient, VFriends is a recipient, and they're like, for them to live up to the valuation that they raised at is going to be quite difficult. Whereas like this team is iterating and making an insane amount of money at this point in time. You got 4 people making $7 million in a month. Obviously, not all that money is going to those individuals, but like they could each take $1 million out and have 3 million left over to like that. That's a crazy scenario. And so, yeah, they aren't going to need funding. This is kind of the dream of the crypto space as well, is that you can go and generate money right out the gate. The idea that like people are making money alongside it, which is kind of how the 2021 boom was happening, and 2022, was that Yuga was making a ton of money on other people speculating on these assets. But there is no better asset to speculate on than individuals. That said, one of the people I bought was 0.5, is now 1.8. I mentioned yesterday that,
Anonymous.
Yeah, but like I'm not going to go buy back in at 1.8 ETH. Like there's nothing in my mind that in which that makes sense. And to me, it doesn't. Like there's no world where previously they were not providing value because it was really difficult for them to provide value, and yet now suddenly they are able to. That said, paying for mobile app access is something that I don't even know. I don't know if even OnlyFans, is there a mobile app for it? Like, can you text with the people that are on there?
Easy would know. Easy would know.
Yeah, my page is very active. Very, very active page. I think there is a mobile app though. I do think so. I mean, like, dude, I was watching Kick on my phone yesterday, for example, like a streaming platform, just because like I didn't want to pull the laptop out. You brought up something though that I wanted to talk about. Was you mentioned the 2020, 2021 Yuga run, which got people like excited because they were making money alongside the creators. The thing that I think is interesting too is like you look at the 16 to 18 run, which was like the Uniswaps in the ICO days, where like people were making money swapping, but those platforms are making a ton off of fees. And that's like I think the most interesting part about this whole like social proofing side of it is that people are making money alongside the creators of the app. So like that's where I'm curious to see the staying power it has. TVL still running up, which is like the craziest part for this. But like I was looking at a bunch of data yesterday, and I just think if you're not leaning into mobile, you're doing yourself and the business a disservice. Like if you look at that from like a mobile gaming standpoint, that's ramping significantly faster, basically everywhere but North America. And I think just in general, mobile applications are going to continue to trend that way.
Well, one thing I wanted to chat about regarding FriendTech too, that Nick was touching upon is like, Nick, you talked about that mechanic of in 2021 or whatever, 2022, Yuga Labs was making quote unquote products that people speculated on, right? Someone that was commending FriendTech for this insane revenue generation in such a short period of time, a response to that person was, well, they're actually just giving something people to gamble, are able to gamble on, right? And so capital is just rotating into this. It's not like you made Spotify and you're charging $10 a month and you're fulfilling a service, or you made Netflix or something like that.
So there's two sides of this. The first question is it gambling? And the question is the value worth what people are paying? The average person on this is not worth an ETH or more. And I even see that it's difficult for most people to sustain over half ETH floor prices. The way that most people are running it up is by buying their own tokens and pumping that price up, people hopping in, them making stuff like.
Well, Nick, you missed what's actually been happening. Multiple pages like John Doe, Harriet Smith, and some of these other like generic names have just been deploying 40 to 50 ETH into their own keys and just absolutely giga sending them with the sole intent to farm the airdrop. They're not buying other people's keys because the airdrop's based on time of holding and portfolio value. So if they buy all of their own keys early, their Twitter page has no following, there's no competition. When you think about the risk reward, they're also only losing a 5% fee because buying your own key, you get that royalty. So now what's actually happening is you can then sell back into that bonding curve after you get the points. So it seems like right now they're really gaming the system when it comes to this like buy your own keys meta, where they're just making burners and letting it fly.
Yeah, well, the thing is, back to buying your own keys ends up being the path. I like what you're saying about the fact that they're farming the airdrop. To Pio's question, though, it's like most of these people, actually, I would argue 99.9% of people that are on the platform had no intention of delivering value to anybody as a result of it. Myself included, when I signed up, I didn't sign up saying I'm looking for a new obligation. Like, that's not what happened when I signed up, but that is what you're taking on when you go sign up for FriendTech. And it's basically a bunch of channels of people trying to figure out, hey, is this thing going to go up? And like, I have over an ETH, 1.5 ETH in here that's like just sitting in different tokens, including my own. That's a shit ton of money. Like, there's no way, dude. People are talking, like, there was like a tweet about Elon that went viral yesterday about him charging everybody to join Twitter, and I don't see any other way around it, which I've been saying for a long time. Like, you need his thing about payment is not the thing. It's identity verification. You need valid identity verification so each person is a real person. And if you want to set up a multi-account system, there needs to be an interface to allow that. But skipping that for one moment, this is them discussing charging $10 a month or whatever to people, which is, to me, within reason. I don't know if that's like the right price for Twitter. You could even debate that. I'm like, do I get $10 of value? But like, people are just aping into people's FriendTech shares at 0.29. Get the hell out of here. This is ridiculous. There's no way that you expect that you're going to get $500 of value. I could get a Twitter subscription for 2 years but on one of the prices that I pay for these people. That said, I can pull money out if I get out quick enough. But yeah, I don't know. I think that
point three is a lot of roast pork sandwiches. Let me tell you, we're gonna throw to Bunny. Bunny's gonna probably weigh in on FriendTech, and then I want to throw to Bread, who I've led on stage. Bread, I've seen being quite vocal about FriendTech, something inspired Bread to join the show. So we are going to throw to Bread after Bunny. But Bunny, what's going on?
I mean, if you're buying FriendTech keys based on the amount of value you're going to get back, like, you should probably just pull the money and get a therapist, right? Like, this thing's going to be dead in 12 months. Like,
well,
like,
that's not, Bunny, it's not a foregone conclusion that it will be dead.
It sucks as an app. What are we talking about? The only reason to buy it, the only reason to be on it is because you think you're early enough and like TVL like will go up, and therefore like the top keys will go up, right? Or because you're farming the airdrop. Like, the tech isn't even good, right? Like, it's clunky as fuck. The chat doesn't work half the time I'm on the app. Like, I don't know what we're talking. Like, anybody who thinks there's like long-term sustainability to this, I really think is kidding themselves.
I mean, that's a you know, a very hot take, or not hot, but an opinionated take from Buddy. Nick, go ahead, and then we'll throw to Brad.
Well, like the real question, how many people are on FriendTech as of today? Is it 10,000? Is it 20,000? How many people are actually on the app?
I don't know if we have the user numbers handy. Perhaps does Brad know how many users are on the app?
I'm actually going to look down to Tyler. He posted his core metrics this morning, and he said new users 8,350 according to what he calculated.
Say that one more time.
That's new users,
8,350. That's the total users. It basically broke even, so no increase day over day.
So just under 8,500 total users on the platform, Nick.
Yeah, I don't know if that's active addresses. Maybe he can speak to that in his actual post, but labeled as active users.
That feels pretty awful.
Yeah, that feels low, because I would have thought the botters and the people that are trying to manipulate prices would make several accounts.
What was that chart that was just up? The one with the cumulative users chart that you had there.
Yeah, this shows. I'm just saying that this Dune chart is the one that I see most people using, and it says that yesterday
over 30,000.
Yeah. 20,000 total users, 11,000.
No, 211,000 cumulative users is what that chart is saying.
So then maybe that's the day over day that he's posting, that the daily growth is the same.
Yeah, and those are the numbers they keep showing. Returning users, which would be the total daily active users would be around 19,000. So yesterday there was 20,000 people that were on the platform. Let me just tell you, this is like small fry numbers when it comes to activity here. The bigger thing is the noise that's filling up your timeline with FriendTech is the bigger thing that's associated with it. And it's just indicative of how absolutely barbecued the crypto Twitter space is, because it's all that people have time to do is literally just speculate on the price of random shit rather than like offer any value to the system. And the people that are advocates of this are really the people who are full-time traders. The people who are full-time traders, their bags go up when you go buy into the things that they're pumping, which is the exact same thing that happened with a lot of NFT projects, where it's like somebody with a punk face that is spending $100,000 and explain on a piece of art and explaining to you why that makes sense and why you should believe in the future of NFTs, and that they're like making those purchases. They're doing nothing more than pumping their own bags. And that's what this space is like completely filled with. It's actually seeing like NFT statistics. His daily updates on FriendTech to me is like, and he still wouldn't say if he was on there, but like it shows how desperate the space is for like anything to pump at this point. And this is the only thing that's pumping. No one's saying, hey, I wonder if Moonbirds is the trade here. Like, that's just not happening. There's like 500 people who are like trading NFTs at this point. The Rect Finance, I guess, is that what OSF's is it called? Rect Finance? Sorry. So what is OSF and Mando's?
Rect Radio?
Rect,
no.
Yeah.
Sorry, everyone just said it at the exact same time. What is it?
Degens.finance.
Degens.finance. So they set up a FriendTech leaderboard, which actually shows what individuals' accounts are doing well, and they're just pulling the data off of the contract. It's kind of slow going, and it looks like it literally actively loads in real time. But if you go to Degens.finance, they set up a leaderboard that shows all of the activity with who's trending and who they're holding and who their holders are and what activity is going on. And there's a lot of interesting data that you could find in there. I'd be curious, and I don't know how they're surfacing it. I think it's full like Web3.js, like they're pulling in real time versus like archiving that data to the database. And that would be interesting to see, like, oh, what's the median transaction value that's happening on here? Like I'm seeing a lot of transactions as these things happen at 0.00 something. But I don't know. It's speculation for speculation purposes, and that's the thing that's just like so difficult from this. And then like people getting angry and saying you're not doing enough for your room, like go and pump this thing, like what the hell are you doing? By the way, this whole FriendTech conversation is sponsored by my FriendTech. Remember, all Nick is one of the best accounts on the FriendTech ecosystem, one of the most undervalued accounts.
Someone told me my account was undervalued, and I was like, yeah, I mean, I don't know what the value of anyone's FriendTech account is, but I did see there's people with very, followings that you wouldn't think would have super high prices on FriendTech, but they have, 0.3, 0.4 Ethereum prices on FriendTech, which is, it's interesting to see. I'm not as convinced that there's literally nothing going on here that's substantive as, for example, Bunny, I think, Bunny, you're basically saying you think that this is a new set of prices that has emerged in the NFT space. So it's attracted the speculators. They're going to do it as long as they can to make any amount of money. And then after that, it'll be completely dead. Is that basically what you're saying? And then I'll throw to Brad.
I think after the airdrop, this thing's DOA, right? Like, I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I mean, except for maybe like my keys and Nick's keys. Potentially those things having some long-term sustainability, but.
Well, thank you for that insight, Bunny. Brad, I'd love to hear a take from you on this. You have your hand raised. What's going on, Brad?
All right. So I'm going to go into this thing and say that everyone in this entire, not you guys specifically, but like everyone in the crypto space is too goddamn emotional about this thing. And literally everything that everyone has said is true, but it's like, it depends on how much of the spectrum is filled by the thing that you are saying, right? Bunny's talking about, or you earlier, someone was talking about, Anonymous is 1.3 and he's trying to, he's up to 1.8. Like he's not doing anything to provide value to do that thing. And like, yeah, that's true because he is doing it to optimize the airdrop, right? So like, or what he's doing, like, yeah, he's not providing value in there because what he's doing is true for what his outcome needs to be. And to say like this stuff is speculative, yes, there is layers of speculation here, but there is some very quantifiable shit that is going on that is driving a lot of this activity. And like, you can argue about the structure that's at play and whether it's sustainable and whether things are like actually worthwhile to be like in some of these rooms, which I'll refute that because like I just recently bought into a room that I had recently sold because I fucking missed the dude and he had quality content. And I like the genesis of his information came from that room because that's a native thing for him because he can't share elsewhere outside of that, right? He can't do it on the timeline because of his position. So he shares in this smaller, intimate setting and he has genuinely like interesting content. So I bought into that room at his price because that was valuable to me. And that's the only way I could do that. And he was my homie. He's someone that I can fucking DM with, but he doesn't just randomly DM me that stuff. He puts it in his room. So like all of that stuff is true, but like the overarching thing is there's some very quantifiable stuff that's being done that's driving a lot of this activity.
How much did you pay to speak with your homie?
It's 0.4, I think.
God,
director of Coinbase.
Yo, that's a close homie, man.
Fucking awesome.
You said he's a director at Coinbase. Is that correct?
He is, yeah. And so like, but again, like even that, like everyone looks at that and goes, "Oh my God, you're spending $1,000 to fucking hang out with the dude." But like, again, like there's assumptions there of price stays relatively stable or he continues to do things that are valuable. To me, that price makes sense. Maybe for the next person, they'll pay a little bit more. Maybe for the next person, they'll pay a little bit less, whatever. But I can instantly pull out, 0.38, right? Just the 5% taxes on that. So I can sit there and monitor it. It's not a 0.4 cost. It's a 10% of 0.4 cost, right?
Yeah. And so, well, look, the part that you said that's interesting is you said he's a director at Coinbase. So that's kind of in line with the get access to people that you otherwise may not get access to, right? And I just think about like if I was someone that was just getting into the space and I was interested in, crazy idea, actually trying to develop a career for myself in the space, which I don't know how many individuals coming into the space are actually looking to do now. But if that was the case, getting access to someone notable like that and being able to potentially build a relationship, even just get on their radar would have some kind of value. The hardest thing to tell is where the price, like where an appropriate price is, because you just kind of pointed out the thing that we've been talking about, which is that a lot of people aren't buying this for the value that they receive, but rather for the price associated with it. And that was kind of the end of your commentary, where you're like, yeah, but if it only goes down by 5%, it's only a 10% cost of the 0.4. I think a lot of people fear that there will be a plummeting in price that's pretty damn significant. What I will say, and I've been saying this from the beginning, and when you said that people are too damn emotional about it, I totally understand what you mean. When it first came out, and I wasn't really, the big eye-opening conversation for me was when I spoke with Giancarlo about it, because I think Giancarlo had already been on it for weeks. He'd been, doing a deep dive. He did a YouTube video on it. This is Giancarlo Buys Tokens on YouTube. He's a friend of the show. And he was pointing out some of the mechanics with it that actually could lead to having it be a bigger deal than maybe just a temporary price-related focus of the crypto Twitter, and NFT space. At first, it kind of hurt my feelings because I felt like it was literally just a new set of prices that people wanted to speculate on, which you definitely can make an argument that it is, but it just made me feel like people just didn't care about anything substantive in the space at all. And it was literally just, any opportunity for them to buy something and sell it moments later and have some sort of gain that they're probably actually measuring in fiat in many cases. That whole thing just kind of bothered me, and it sort of hurt my feelings. So you might actually see that some of the people that are getting emotional of it, like you were pointing out, that might be the way that they're thinking about it. But I actually do think that there's potential here. The problem is that it's going to probably take some time, and the airdrop mechanic, the farming, the bots, the price pumping, it's not going to do it any favors. Nick?
I think Bunny is spot on with that, which is just like this. It's the same thing with Blur. Like at the beginning, everyone was like, is this good for the system? Is this bad for the ecosystem? And fundamentally, it ended up, I actually still don't even know the conclusion associated with Blur. It added liquidity. The bigger issue was there was a bunch of people that ended up buying things that they didn't want to hold in order to farm a token, which meant that the prices were not reflective of any sort of practical reality of what's going on. And so if you were a buyer at any point in NFTs, right after Blur came out, you lost a bunch of money because I think it slowed the pace at which NFTs fell off, because there was a lot of demand for NFTs that literally had it inflated the actual demand of things. And right now the prices on all FriendTech shares are inherently inflated. So that's the I don't know, that's the thing. And that's the thing that's disappointing to see. What's that?
So I honestly don't disagree with you, but again, it in my mind, we just have to look at all the pieces that are on the table, right? I have some very valid, I consider valid critiques of the system, right? I think the taxes are too high for something to be sustainable with this. I think obviously the app sucks, but some of that stuff will get ironed out, whatever. I think the contract is too rigid, right? That limits its upside, but all of that shit is subsidized by what is this eventual airdrop, right? So because this thing can live off of these yield boys coming in and doing math, which I don't know if you guys have seen some of the stuff on the timeline, but CL, who's a very notorious trader. So we can talk about this theoretical airdrop thing, but CL, notorious trader, old crypto head, right? He is already publicly offering to buy points at a discount, right? He is saying, I think the fully diluted value of this coin, whenever it comes, could be anywhere from 1 to 1.5 billion, 10% airdrop. I'm willing to pay $300 million FDV on this thing. So he's paying 30 cents on the point right now because he believes so much that this stuff is going to come at a future state. And whenever you see the TVL that's fighting for this stuff right now, it's $30 million in the contract, and the potential airdrop of a 1 to 1.5 billion dollar airdrop, 10% airdrop is 100 to 150 million. You now have 130, or you have $30 million are fighting over 100 to 150 million potential airdrop potential, right? So now you have hundreds of percent in APY over a 6-month period that these deep yield boys are bricked the F up on to come into this thing. So they don't care about these fees that I think are a problem, and they're raining down on everyone else. So while like this takes place over the next 6 months, because it's going to continue to take place because those guys believe that, we have, and this is how I see it, right? Because Pony, you have very valid critiques of guys after or up to the airdrop, right? Like, so we have, I think, a 5-month window to sit here and continuously evaluate the app, see if it stays sticky, see if there's actually a product market fit. And if over that time, like we find ourselves drifting away from the app, there is no content generation that's taking place on the app, which again, talking about the Coinbase dude, you guys don't know it. The timeline doesn't know it, but Sisyphus like copy pasted a fucking post that this guy made on his, like in that chat, right? He had some very interesting metrics that he revealed that he can't say publicly because he's a Coinbase dude and it gets misconstrued often. Sisyphus came in there, copy pasted it, put it on the timeline, and the thing blew up, right? So me being in that room, I can see that the genesis of this information came from there, and you guys are all getting it secondhand on the timeline, and like that has value, right? So if he continues to post native things on the app and other people continue to do that, whether it's alpha calls or just general insightful information or, you know, NFT drops or whatever, if that continues to stay sticky over the next 4 or 5 months, then there's a potential this thing sticks around, maybe at inflated prices for a little bit, and those are going to draw down as we approach and go through the airdrop, because that's what measures the actual points you get. But just I think just look at it and try to be objective.
The airdrop farming thing is a load of crap as far as I'm concerned, because there's no inherent. Everyone talks about. There was some guy in the Discord the other day that was like, "Yo, when are bones tradable?" Basically, and everyone wants to speculate on an airdrop, and every airdrop follows the exact same hype cycle. There's like an inflated price for about maybe 24 hours, and then it's literally just down only from there. There's with the exception, ApeCoin was able to generate a lot of demand, but like
they had a hype cycle too, was the thing. Like their hype cycle was going into the land mint, knowing that you had to use Ape for part of that. So it's like, if you can inherently create some level of short-term interest, that's where you tend to see something there as far as like a catalyst, I guess you could call it.
But the perspective that this is generating value to me is the biggest like bullshit like thing. It's an opportunity for
the money side or the content side.
The money for this is not just on FriendTech. Like I want to be clear. I'm not just talking about FriendTech, but I am implying that like Blur's airdrop created a complete like manipulation of the NFT market in a way that I don't think was fundamentally healthy. And I think that now in this case, the FriendTech market is just the FriendTech market. So at least it's not like undermining people that entered some broader ecosystem that they're being screwed over by. This is just like the crypto market, if you want to call it, where there's a bunch of shit coins and people are always hungry to go and buy the next Pepe or whatever it is, but there's no value being created by Pepe. Instead, there's a bunch of trash being generated from Pepe. But all the people that are telling me about Pepe coin on my timeline are just creating spam, like as bad as Viagra promotions, basically on my like literal tweet timeline, all because they want to just pump their bags of complete bullshit. And that's basically
Nick, I feel like you've brought in 3 different products, whatever. Like you've got Pepe, which is different to Blur, which is different to FriendTech here.
They're all the same.
Airdrops, but airdrops at the end of the day are meant to incentivize people to have a particular behavior. And we've just seen what's happened with the Optimism drop. Like a whole bunch of people just got airdrop more money because of governance action. And so it's like, great, there's a second surprise in the system X months later because of action that they took earlier. And I just think like you can't put all airdrops in the same bucket. The way Optimism is using it, the way Blur is using it, the way FriendTech is using it is all completely different. And I wouldn't even put Pepe in the same bucket as those things. And I think what Bread is saying is extremely valid, that you have to, it's not, there's no black and white answer here as to whether the product is good or bad. There is bad things about it that can be improved. There are good things that are happening here, but it's what Brett said earlier. You have to optimize for the outcome that you want. If somebody wants to create great content in there, like this Coinbase guy, or I always hear that Tyler has a really good room, then those could be keys that are worth buying. And then 6 months later, you've actually got value from your key. But if someone else is doing what Anonymix is doing and he's just optimizing for the goal of having the airdrop, well, that's how he wants to use the app. And I think like people need to go into the FriendTech app, with a goal rather than just sort of like fudding it and thinking it's as bad or as good as Blur is. Putting it in the same bucket as Blur, I don't think is comparing apples to apples.
It's the same bucket.
It's not the same bucket. It really isn't.
The only distinction. The only distinction is like most people don't take the time to create, for example, an NFT project. Our whale holders and the Discord are the people where I want to say, hey, here's what's coming up on the platform. And that's an example of someone who's like bought into or like sees value in us basically. And the art, I guess. I mean, that's really the main thing that you're buying when you buy an NFT is literally a picture. But I think for a lot of people, it is interesting. I'm not saying that I don't think FriendTech is interesting. I just think that the way that it's structured and the way that it's being played and the thing that you end up looking toward, when you go on Twitter, when you go on Instagram, what's the goal? Get followers, right? That's the game that exists there, which is saying, and theoretically, in that scenario, you're supposed to, quote, deliver value to your audience, and then more people will follow and engage with your content. And ideally, you're making content that is optimized for the algorithm in a way that it's going to surface / give you more distribution so you can, more people that are not following you can be made aware of who you are and your content. That's the game that's being played there. In the FriendTech
but you don't have to play that game, right?
No, I'm not.
Even in the Twitter room, you could follow people and not doing. There's a ton of just reply guys or not just follow guys that just consume content. You could do the same thing over there.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying, but I'm saying the main game, like the main game that you're playing, and the main game on FriendTech is make the share price of my room, and I'm using the word share price, go up. Of the price of my keys, that's the game. So then the question is, well, how am I optimizing for that? And that's how all platforms are designed, is to incentivize behavior around one key objective. That's the goal right there. And the goal of Blur was for you to farm Blur tokens. That was the goal of the platform. It wasn't, hey, go have a better user experience buying one piece of art that you were looking to buy. That's not the goal. The goal is come to this platform so you can go farm more things and trade more active, basically.
But the goal of Blur, I think, actually, if you're Pac-Man, for example, if you're the person that's making Blur, I have to think that he was like, I want to make an NFT platform that's for traders. And he did it because he saw an opportunity to disrupt the marketplace ecosystem, because OpenSea at that time really wasn't improving more or less at all. And there wasn't any sort of public visibility into OpenSea, despite being the single, household name platform for NFT trading. And he succeeded in the sense that we all thought probably it would be very hard to become the next household name in the NFT space and get a lot of users, but he did succeed. And the user interface, a lot of people, the hardcore traders, they like him more.
I'm not saying that Blur's an awful
was the outcome, but
I'm not saying
liquidity was the goal. Liquidity. It's several times whenever he talks about what he's trying to do, like Blur was the reward. Obviously, the token was the reward, but his goal, what he was trying to optimize for, was liquidity. Right. That's why get as close as you can to a bid to incentivize or to be rewarded for with the token. Like that was the outcome. It's not for to do the token. It's to do this thing that is incentivized by the token, and that was liquidity.
Well, that's Bread's take on Blur. Nick, anything to add?
Look, my position is what it is.
Firm.
Everyone knows what it is right now. And basically, if you want to understand a platform, look at the incentives. I'm not saying any of these people are bad product builders. If we want to get into like the actual products, cool. Like we can discuss the products, but at the heart of the product is not the UI. At the heart of the product is actually the incentives designed around that platform and what the objective is on that particular platform. And the objective right now on FriendTech is farm and airdrop, as Easy mentioned, as everybody else mentioned. And it's not about how do I deliver another platform where people provide value to individuals, where they spent a ton of time crafting that UI so that people can, quote, deliver value to their holders. I even think like if they launched video, that would definitely be the main game changer for that platform, because it's way easier to give that personal feel and that sort of inside take on things via that versus text. But anyways,
real quick, yeah, and we're going to get into the weather report in just a second. One or two things. So people in the comments are saying Blur used to be the talk of the town, and now it's quote unquote dead. Well, we have our stats here that Signal's about to hit in the weather report. There was $4.9 million of volume on Blur over the past 24 hours. So if that's dead, then what the hell is alive is what I want to know. I mean, I'm just saying
Blur's
that's
dead.
Like someone in the YouTube comments, right? And I think a lot of times
it's good for us to debate with the commenters.
I'm just pointing.
All those commenters are peasants, Pio, and you need to treat them as such. Okay, commenters, y'all are peasants.
The perspective, I think, a lot of times is just basically whether or not something is the primary topic of conversation on a single social media platform, which in this case is X, right? And for all the listeners, maybe if you're listening to the podcast version, the audio podcast, and maybe you're not on Twitter, X all the time. When Brad, Signal, Nick, Easy, when they said on the timeline, what they're actually talking about is on X. And there's a lot of Web3 speak in this episode, so I do want to clear things up for people. The other thing I was going to bring up is that FriendTech does actually solve a problem. It's a weird problem to solve, but one problem it definitively solves is if you flash back to 2021 and you think about like Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis doing Stoner Cats, if there was FriendTech, they wouldn't have done that. They would have just made FriendTechs and tried to pump the FriendTechs. And it really does solve that problem of people that are looking to extract value from the ecosystem based on their individual celebrity. They could just make a FriendTech. And the thing's going to pump up. If The Rock made a FriendTech tomorrow, it would probably be the number. Like if he confirmed it, if he tweeted it out that he made it and confirmed that it's him, he made a little video where he's responding to people on the FriendTech. That's the number one FriendTech on the whole platform, more than Racer. It's going to pump the whole FriendTech. He won't do that right now because of the quote unquote stink that's on crypto at the moment. But I'm just pointing it out. Like that is a thing. I'm not saying that that's inevitably going to happen. I don't know where I stand on where FriendTech would be in a year, but I'm hopeful that the people that are making it are really trying to make it a huge, huge deal, because ultimately we need people that are really focused on making things that are a huge deal globally for the space, for the long term, and not just focusing on value extraction. Nick, before we go to the weather report, anything to add?
Yo, just shout out to my peasants in the room, man. Y'all the real ones. I wanted to say, someone said they're not a peasant, they're a LARPer. Wag me, boy.
That's some Web3 speak for you.
Look, I'm just saying, I've had enough of these people coming in. I get DM like replies from people. One of them I muted at this point that like are literally being like, "Here's the way that the show should go down," and I'm like, if you actually want to provide insight into the way that the show can improve, please feel free to write an entire essay about it and like provide that. Shoot it to me via DM though. Writing a reply. Someone was like, it's literally something that'll be discussed for 5 seconds, unlike today where we discussed FriendTech for 56 minutes. We're gonna get into the weather report, and then we're gonna be like, and that's the show for today.
That sounds like a good show to me.
I'm just infuriated by this space. Obviously, that's what's going on at this point. We're in bear market territory, and the absolute like all we can talk about is just like what feels like complete bullshit, basically. Just non-value.
Well, real quick, before you go, Signal, I do want to say, like, I bit my tongue, for example, at the very beginning of the show, the very, very beginning, if you remember, before we discussed FriendTech, we talked about, like, Bitcoin versus Ethereum, right? And the take that you gave at that time, Nick, I feel like was a very digestible take for people that are in the crypto space, for sure. The crypto and NFT space. They probably heard that. In fact, I think I saw people in the comments being like, Nick is absolutely right, this, that, and the other thing. The thing is that actually right now is basically the most exciting time in the space in a long time. And here's the thing that everybody hates me saying. Everybody hates this. We're not that far away from the next Bitcoin halving, which is a huge, huge deal. And the price has been trading sideways for months. It's been this unreal accumulation opportunity as technological developments are coming to Bitcoin and more developers are attracted to Bitcoin. it's a pretty unreal time. The people on the crypto side, that doesn't get them excited because the price isn't going up right now. When they'll get excited is when the Bitcoin price goes up and then the altcoins follow, because the crypto people love buying the altcoins. That's like the big thing that they're into. But I'm just saying right now is like a juicy ass time where I wake up every morning and I'm like, holy shit. I mean, I'm talking to Robert Breedlove today. It's like the Super Bowl every day right now for Bitcoin. But anyway, and I know people are just gonna be like, I don't understand. You'll understand a year from now. That's all.
Like the Super Bowl every day for Bitcoin.
Let's finish off our bingo card. Pio, what did you eat for lunch yesterday?
I had a roast pork. Signal, go ahead.
I was with you, Pio. Up at, like you said, this is the most interesting time now, and then you went into the Bitcoin bit. I'm like, sometimes
it's not a bit.
I think no, but like sometimes I think people are like in the bear market have pegged their expectations to the past and are looking for that pattern to repeat in the future. And I'm like, well, that's not going to happen. Like this next bull cycle isn't going to play out how the last 2 years have been. And I think when things like FriendTech or whatever it is comes along, like if it has sticking power for the people who are bothering to put in their time, like you have to at least invest and be curious about it, because otherwise you'll just get so bored twiddling your thumbs waiting for an NFT picture to go up in price when it's not going to go up in price anymore, or sitting around waiting for a token, whether that is Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, whatever, to go up in price. And so I think like you're absolutely spot on that this is the most interesting time, but I think it's the most interesting time because products and services are being forced to be developed and grow in a bear market, which is very boring, but it can capture a lot of attention. So that's why I think it's the most interesting, not necessarily because we're 12 months out from a halvening, but hey,
we're less than 12 months out. But yes, go ahead.
Sorry, I'll have to
significantly less. It shows how dialed in you are on the halving signal. I'm just gonna say.
I should put it in. I should put it in my birthday reminder calendar. Sorry, my mistake.
Guys, it's like insanely important.
We got to re-architect our product strategy because of to adjust to the halvening cycle, everybody. So we're going to go back and I'm going to readjust
I did not say
everything that we're building because of the halvening cycle. And
I'm not speaking to entrepreneurs that are building in the space. And when I talk about Clemente's got the halving clock. When I talk about FriendTech, I'm talking to the entrepreneurs in the space. When I talk about like actually building the platform, but to the average participant in the space, there's a comment from me where I said it wasn't priced in. That's pretty funny, actually. I guess I fired it off. I was like, not priced in. Anyway, well, let's Signal go ahead. I don't even remember writing this. Ladies and gentlemen, sorry. Clemente's pulled up
Pio's realizing that everything eventually he's going to look outside the curtain and realize that everything we've been talking about is way more balanced and nuanced than that's not priced in.
You would say that, except for the fact that you're not plowing all your money into Bitcoin right now, and that says a lot. But anyway, Signal.
Yeah, it says I'm a reasonable human. It would be weird if you take all of your money and plow it into Bitcoin right now. Like, it's weird. It's not a normal behavior, Pio. You got to realize that that's not a normal thing.
The weird people are the ones that win. The weird people are the ones that win. Ask anybody that plowed it in before 2020. Anyway, Signal, please take it away with the weather report.
Dude, ask anyone that bought New York land in
1910.
1900. Yeah, they'd be rich, but they're not buying it now. I'm telling you that much. And there's a big halvening cycle coming up in New York real estate in the next year, Pio. So get ready for that.
The water's rising, the oceans are rising. It's causing a massive halvening down here in Florida too. It's pretty crazy.
You're going to want to be in the middle of the land, but everyone's buying it on the water. But what happens when the water is off by 6 blocks? So why is that? So I'm buying waterside real estate right now, or waterfront real estate, even though I'm about half a mile from the water. And so that's the halvening. Yeah, right there.
You're absolutely right to compare Bitcoin to the highest value real estate in the world. A Signal, please take it away.
Yeah, an hour in. Weather slightly delayed due to some FriendTech storms, but Tuesday, September the 19th, market volume at 10.8 million. That's broken down with Blur at 4.9, OpenSea at 2.3, and FriendTech at 11.7. Onto the market leaders. Well, on the large caps, D-Golds are up 3%. They're around 3.6 ETH. Captains are down to 7%, barely holding above 3 ETH. And the ladies are also down to 6%, holding 2.5. Looking at the mints from last week, Sugartown, that's actually down as well, down 10% to 0.33. And Metaria is down 30% to 0.12 ETH. Other movers that were pretty interesting include the parallel avatars. They're up 30%. Checks are down 15%, and Potatoes down 10%, with its lowest floor in over 1 year. Over the past 24 hours, well, Artist Ferocious has released mint details for FIWOs, with paint holders receiving their free airdrop on September the 26th. There's going to be an allow list price of 0.12 ETH and a public mint at 0.4 ETH. The mint will start with a snapshot on September the 25th. Vincent Van Gogh tweeted that the NFT space is more of a casino than an art market, with participants chasing unrevealed drop after unrevealed drop until most are left with nothing. This was also his reasoning for doing his No Pepin drop, which ended up revealing as a blank canvas with a vague Opepin in the back. On to Stoner Cat, and they have been delisted from Blur and OpenSea following the SEC charges, with all of the sales now moving over to LooksRare. The collection holds a 0.05 ETH floor, which is up 3x since the SEC charge. So positive move for them. And then lastly, on the crypto side, Tipcoin, the SocialFi token, had their claim go live yesterday for users that tagged the account and mentioned the token on Twitter. Tipcoin currently holds a market cap of $9 million. That is all for the weather report today. We are late, but we'll be back on time tomorrow. Back to you guys in the studio.
Not necessarily, Sig. I don't have a time in mind for the weather report. And in fact, the way I think about it, the later in the show the weather report comes, the better the show is going. Some interesting stories there for sure. The thing about Vince Van Doe's message, I don't necessarily disagree with anything in Vince Van Doe's message. I'm just like, but you're also just selling another NFT. That's the thing. I don't know if it was a free claim, but it is interesting to just sell more NFTs as you deliver those messages. Clemente?
That was for Opepin's drop number 19. They basically, it was like unrevealed. Jack Butcher shared the drop, and it was just this reveal after vote. Everyone opted in, and then right afterwards, you just got a blank canvas. So he was like, yeah, screw you guys. Like, that's what you get for trying to opt into this. You should have known what was coming. But it was just like, all right, like, way to screw over the Opepin people.
Did they pay for it?
You opted into it. Which is,
you have to buy an Opepin to vote, so it's like that is your payment. Theoretically.
Okay,
but he faced a lot of backlash for that, for having the right theory but doing it on the wrong community.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one. Real quick, so why don't we wrap the show with this? Tipcoin claim went live yesterday. Easy, what is the story with this thing? Or Nick?
We're skipping the newsletter stories.
Oh damn, Nick catching me slipping. That's like the first time ever.
Look. Let me just run down through the few 37 articles here. Citigroup has launched digital token and private blockchain service for their institutional clients. Shout out to Citigroup. The SEC was denied access to Binance US's software in a hearing yesterday. Wha-bam! And the SEC has claimed that Binance has made it difficult in sharing information about their exchange in the discovery process because that's their obligation. I feel like the SEC comes over and is like, yo, take off your pants. And you're like, no, I'm good with that. I don't want to take off my pants. And they're like, oh, you're making it difficult. You're making it difficult. And it's like, no. Like, it's all good. Like, I'm supposed to protect my genitals. So the CCO of Artblocks has shared that he will be stepping down and returning to Google, saying this move aligns with his professional aspirations. He also yelled, fuck FriendTech on the way out, actually. It's pretty crazy. Local weather, the sports drink NFT collection by Russell Wilson and AJ Vaynerchuk announced that their holders are now able to redeem free cases of sports drinks per token held following a snapshot taken last week. Did I buy one of these? I don't think so. I wonder how the sports drink tastes. Optimism, Bunny will let us know. The top athlete on the team drinking all the sports drinks is gonna let us know about this. Optimism announced
Easy's not the top athlete.
Oh damn!
Hey yo,
Dinger.
He's training though, by the way, and also he would probably destroy you at basketball.
I mean, dude, think about it. Like 25 camel crushes a day. Like I think I have a pretty solid chance.
25.
I don't even know what camel crushes are. Optimism announced their airdrop number 3, rewarding over 31,000 unique addresses. Optimism's fully diluted market cap is currently at $6 billion. In the notes here, it says, "Easy, did you get this airdrop?"
I did not get the airdrop. Oh no, Optimism. I got 4 cents. I got 4 cents. So yeah, I can't buy a pack or a single piece of gum, which is great. But no, yeah, I checked this morning because I did get the original one, but this was all for governance voting. So it's basically like if you've continued to use the chain and actually do any sort of voting for anything from their governance pool, they airdropped it. So basically just continued participation instead of just immediately withdrawing it to another chain, which is what I did. I think the first airdrop I got like 2 or 3 grand. I saw someone though wake up to $42,000 airdrop to them. So
Damn.
People who were active got paid for sure. I mean, and I know we want to talk about Tipcoin briefly too. That was another airdrop from the SocialFi side of things. I saw someone make 4.5 ETH off just tweeting about it. But that was one of the big reasons I didn't, was like, it was all over my timeline. People were like shilling it in every single comment. Yeah, get tipped.
Oh my God, dude.
Yeah.
I just could not participate in that. I was like,
it paid people some wild money though, was the thing. Like tens of thousands of dollars to multiple people that I saw, and like on the low side, anywhere from 5 to 1,000 just from participating. But dude, I couldn't get behind it purely because like I didn't want to just litter my timeline with tweets about it. I was like, this isn't what I do.
The value generated, the quote value generated from all these things is literally like the externalities in economics, which is like but now rather than doing anything, it's literally just like, rather than manufacturing anything, it's actually just dump trash into the river or the ocean. And then we'll give you an airdrop token for doing that. Is basically what the equivalent of this tip, the value generated. It was like you spammed everybody, and now you generated 3 ETH in spam. This story here that you
no,
have,
that's
Clemente,
not true. Yeah, Louis C.K. That's not his actual account. That's just someone with a parody account.
Did I really just get fooled?
I mean, I don't even think he's trying to fool you.
Got interneted.
The account's called not Louis C.K.
It's a joke. It's like it is Louis C.K.
It's not.
Did you hear him speak on the space? Here's the latest update from Clemente. U.S. national debt reached an all-time high of 33 trillion. What is that story?
I mean, it's a good story. It's that's the Bitcoin show stuff permeating this. I do think it's funny that Nick roasts Clemente for stuff like that. I think it's pretty good. I like it. I like it when Nick roasts Clemente for that stuff. Clemente's been doing a great job preparing the Bitcoin show. We got Robert Breedlove on there today. It's gonna be juicy as hell. No one here is interested, but the people that are interested in money and macroeconomics come through to the Bitcoin show. It's gonna be juicy as hell. I mean, look, is there anything more to say about Tipcoin besides what we said about it just a moment ago? Probably not.
About Tipcoin?
Yes.
No.
Well, I mean, I followed it because it's like just another SocialFi aspect where we're seeing the FriendTech run, and this was like, dude, they got 200,000 Twitter followers in 3 weeks, so like that's impressive in itself. And there was a little bit of FUD about some of the release for the token. They had a few issues with it. They've retroactively applied team tokens to it. $8.5 million market cap out the gate, which is impressive in my opinion. So like that in itself is solid. I just think we're going to continue to see more SocialFi aspects where it's like leveraging social platforms for monetary gain and kind of like create some level of monetary aspects to them. The Tipcoin one was way more focused on Twitter engagement and virality loops. Because like we said, me and Nick both were like, dude, they tagged the shit out of us. It was like everyone in my spaces, the 8 a.m. space, would have 50 comments of people just commenting tip, which was just like annoying, but it clearly got my attention, but it also made me not want to participate. So for smaller accounts that went really hard on it, I mean, we saw videos from Crypto Gorilla, Ash Robin, and some of these other video creators who made content about it really early on. and definitely reap the rewards of it. So like, I got to give credit there. And I think the social following is certainly a testament to how well they were able to scale that in such a short time period. So I think this is just going to be the start of more SocialFi experiments where social media platforms are where you actually gain the edge and are able to take action.
The thing I was going to say that you called it SocialFi, which I think is interesting. There was also a big, a lot of people discussed before social tokens. And I think that's like really what we're seeing with like FriendTech and a lot of the SocialFi stuff that's happening is that it's really how do you make it as user friendly for someone to set that up and have essentially user behavior that mimics pre-existing social apps or is integrated into pre-existing social apps so that there's not like a new thing to learn. There's just more money to earn. And I think that that's something that is pretty interesting about all of this. And as much hate as I give FriendTech or that I give whatever it is, Tipcoin, like the reality is they are actually innovating on like the social media side of crypto. And I think that there is something interesting there. The reality, though, is when like the money is incentivized so early in the cycle of your experience on the platform where you can make so much money so fast in the system, to me, that feels unsustainable. And I think we're going to see a re-architecture of that. But like inherently, Twitter is basically one of the places where you can now make money just from literally like tweeting. You can even set up your own subscription thing. I feel like Twitter has all the functionality that FriendTech has. The only distinction is that your token isn't on a bonding curve. So your subscription price does not follow that bonding curve and your holders do not benefit from it. But like theoretically, they're one step away from having that happen. And they have all of the technology built around like from scaling to be able to support all of that activity. So I don't know. It's awesome to see people innovating on this space, and I don't hate that. I just hate how it's currently incentivized, and that exists also with Tipcoin. Is this just so much? I need to get this airdrop, and the people who exist in there, there's so much shitty people that show up into the space where it's just like, how do I make price go up, get this dollar out? Like it's literally their entire existence is focused on making price go up, and it's just like. It's not fun. Like, it's not like I'd much rather watch YouTube or Netflix or something like that where I actually enjoy the content that I'm consuming.
Yeah, I mean, look, you're not wrong. Look, ladies and gentlemen, that's our show. If it's your first time listening, we do the show Monday through Friday.
If it's your first time listening, sorry.
Don't apologize to the audience, Nick. Look, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern time, ladies and gentlemen. Also available on Apple, Spotify podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Also available on YouTube for the video feed. You can see the link pinned to the top. Make sure you go check out the show on YouTube, subscribe. Big shout out to a guest today, unexpected guest, hadn't been on the show today. Bread at OX Bread Guy is the Twitter handle. Give him a follow. He came on the show and contributed to the FriendTech discussion. Love having new voices on the show.
I might follow.
I follow
him.
Bread Guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, follow him. But yeah, that's our show, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for listening again. Available on Apple, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcast. Also on YouTube. Show happens